This is Matthew MacFadzean, and you're listening to the FSF PopCast.
The show where red shirts always come back from their missions, just so they can get away from the podcasters.
Nice.
So mean. So mean. I love it. Our show is brought to you by our charity sponsor, the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund, which supports the Wish Upon a Teen Foundation that helps out sick kids when they need it most. And just imagine the comfort you'll give Red Shirt crewman number 17. She'll know that when she puts on the red shirt and joins the crew of the Enterprise in their struggles against a Romulan light class warbird, that she didn't leave her family destitute and without hope, because the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund has her back, and what's left of her translator.
Hey guys, our guest today is an amazing actor with credits in shows like The Hardy Boys, Jupiter's Legacy, Designated Survivor, The Handmaid's Tale, and you probably would most recognize him from his role on Star Trek Strange New Worlds as the Romulan Commander. We're so excited and proud to welcome Matthew MacFadzean to the FSF PopCast. Welcome to the show, Matthew.
Thank you so much. It's really good to be here with you both.
Yeah, we're excited. So before we jump into anything, I have to say one thing real quick, because I was talking with Jesse from Open Pike Night before all of this, and he wanted me to let you know that the Open Pike Night boys are rooting for you to get the role of Sarek.
Oh, that means so much. I mean, Come on. How cool would that be, right? Man.
Right, that'd be amazing. And
yeah.
I was so I went back and I was looking into it. I knew who Sarek was. I'm we'll get into this a little bit later, but I'm still kind of fledgling in my Star Trekishness.
Oh, thank goodness. I've been on these shows with folks that know so much, and I'm so intimidated by that. So I'm glad if you are ignorant like me.
Yay, me!
Yay.
Yeah, so when he was like Sarek, I was like, Sarek. That name sounds really familiar. That sounds like a name I should know. And I went back and I looked it up and I'm like, oh yeah, that's Boxdead. Romulans, Vulcans, they're pretty close. They're basically related. Okay, yeah, okay, sure. So I'm like, and I was like, and then I started looking at it more. I'm like, and then I looked at your Romulan character and I'm like, oh yeah, he could pull that off, definitely. Yeah, he can make that work. Yeah. So
that's so kind. Thank you for saying that. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows, right? So I saw that and I thought, Jesse was like, yeah, okay, that could happen. And the more I looked at it, I was like, Jesse might be onto something there. So
wow.
Anyway, so on behalf of the Open Pike boys, we hope you get to be Sarek. So.
Brilliant. Well, kisses back to them. That's like brilliant. That's such an honor, to hear something like that. I mean, I think that role is just. Does it get any cooler than that? I mean, I thought being a Romulan commander was pretty cool, but Sarek is like a role.
That's massive.
Yeah,
that'd be massive.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think whatever they do, it'll be the right thing.
I'm sure. Yeah, based off everything I saw off of season 1 of Strange New Worlds, I'm very excited for season 2. What's coming up with that? Excited to see where they're going with a few things, because the way season 1 ended. So I'm like I can't wait for June 15th to get here. I'm like, it can't come fast enough. I'm very excited about that. So, but
it's only next week.
You know what? You're not alone. I mean, I think a lot of folks are pretty darn pumped about season 2 dropping. Already. We've all known it's been hanging around for 2 years. Just like, give it to us.
Make it happen. Let's go.
Put it in our blood.
Chip, chop, chip. Let's do this. So. Yeah. Okay, so hey, we'll talk about a little bit more about that here in just a moment.
Sure.
But one of the first things that we always like to do with our guest Matthew is kind of set the bar as to who they are and what they are. We love stories. We're nerds. We love origin stories. We love finding out the background of people, and particularly me, I like to know what makes people tick and kind of how they got to be where they are and why they do the things that they do. So in the story of you. What influenced a young Matthew to become the actor that we know today? What's your origin story?
That's a good question, and especially framed like that. I feel like it should be dark and tragic, and maybe it is in places. Who knows? We'll find out. Well, I mean, maybe it didn't start out tragic, but there was a girl in high school who ran a theater festival, and I thought she was amazing. And so I wrote a play. And I remember watching the play being performed and having a bit of a moment of this thing that I did. It was pretty flippant, but it suddenly held great significance and was one of the coolest things I'd ever seen. Just seeing these words come to life, I thought was just a thrill. So I started out writing, because of the girl. Now the girl went away. I kept writing, and I started to act in high school, and then just doing as much as you can in high school, I suppose, the school play and that sort of thing. And then I went to university in Montreal, and the longer my degree went along, the more I was not doing my essays and instead going to the theater to act and to do shows. And I did more and more shows, auditioned for theater school. I had a teacher say, "You should audition for theater school." And I said, "What's that?" They said, "It's where you need to go." So I auditioned, I went in, and I decided to take it a bit seriously, I guess, at that point. And sort of found my people, I think, in a lot of ways. You sort of look around in theater school and you're like, oh yeah, you're all nuts in the same way I'm a little nuts. And we all like telling stories, and we're all real committed to this, and kind of found my people. And then I'm doing the whole story. That's more than the origin, isn't it? The origin was fell in love with the girl went away, the love of acting stayed, and love of theater stayed, and then a slow transition from theater to screen, which I do mostly these days.
Right. Well, no, your answer was fine. I was actually really enjoying it. You can't give us too much information. Let's just put it that way. We've had people apologize for rambling. We're like, no, you were giving a great answer. It's not rambling.
Oh, good. Okay, so, that's great to know. Because I can ramble, and I will.
That's okay. We won't stop you either.
Right, because if you start rambling, then we don't ramble, and then that's really better for everybody.
She's not wrong. She's not wrong. We have a tendency, and by we I mean me, to just start rambling, and you don't have to shake your head that aggressively. But
you need like a ramble safety word or something. Just
right?
The other person call
pineapple,
out.
Pineapple. But yeah.
Then you wouldn't hear me over the sound of your own voice. You would just be sitting here saying pineapple, and people would be so confused.
I did find it interesting, though, that you said that you got started because of an interest in a girl. And it's also been interesting to me to the number of people that we've talked to have had that same reaction, whether it was a girl or a boy, and somebody of the opposite sex, or somebody of the same sex. Just there was some romantic spark there where there was like, well, if I do this, I can get closer to that person. Mm-hmm. And I think only a small number of the people who have brought that up as part of their origin story have actually, landed that fish. Most of them it's gotten away.
Hey, well, you know what? I landed the fish, but the thing that I was like, the theater thing was much better than the girl in the end.
Well, there you go. There you go. Fair enough.
The fish didn't weigh as much as the thing,
Gotcha, buddy. All right. No, that's cool. That's a cool origin story. I think that if you can have a love that grows out of something like that, I think it makes it more complete to you, because it's not just something you do. It's something that you're doing because there's a drive there clearly to do what you're doing.
And you know what? I guess it was also like I realized it was a real outlet for me to express myself through these people that I would play. You're safe to get mad, and you're safe to be, you're safe to show emotions and try on different experiences. And that's very addictive, that just sort of ability to be curious, to be curious about other people's lives and get inside them a little bit. Neat. It's fun.
I could see that very easily for me. Yeah.
That's actually,
I mean, when you're a kid, you're like, you want to be all these things. You want to be a fireman and a doctor or an astronaut. And, it's basically what actors are still doing, as they grow older. It's just still playing make-believe, What's better than that? I don't know.
Getting paid to play make-believe. I think that's better. So.
I think that's part of the reason, though, that like tabletop role-playing games are as popular as they are, is that it's that same sort of little bit of a creative outlet of I'm going to be a bard. even though
you are totally, absolutely right. That is exactly the same thing. You know, we're playing that. My family we are Hyrule warriors. All right. We are like Legend of Zelda geeks. And we're playing the game right now, like the new one. And my wife came in and she's like, you have to go and do this. And I'm like, I am Link. I am Link. I don't have time. Do you have any idea what I'm dealing with here?
I actually had to stop playing Tears of the Kingdom to do the interview. Like, I get it. I get it. No, like I picked my husband up from work and came home and he's like, how much Tears of the Kingdom have you played today? I'm like, not that much. The 4-year-old is still alive. It's all good. Like, obviously she's eaten multiple meals today. I've eaten multiple meals. Obviously, I haven't only been in Hyrule.
My 8-year-old comes home and he says, did you do any today? And I'm like, no, not much. Meanwhile, I've taken out temples. I have new powers. I have, and I'm like, no, nothing. Just don't take my game time, dude.
Right.
So, I don't have a Nintendo Switch, but my nephew does. And I've been watching him play and he's been playing Tears of the Kingdom and he's like, and I'm kind of find myself even as a bystander watching it getting invested. I'm like, oh, if you're going to take on that guy, don't you need this other shield? You're going to need a better sword than the one you got. Is there a way that we can increase that?
Absolutely.
And I'm watching him do this and after a couple minutes, he's like, Uncle Tim, I got this. Okay. Just,
you know what I just recently found out though, is that you can because the whole mechanic of fusing weapons is fantastic and I love it. But if you take the skeletal arms, those things have like a +20. They are way.
Fuse 2 of them together.
Yeah.
You get 40.
They are way stronger than I thought these stupid bone hands would be. I got so annoyed with them in Breath of the Wild that then now in Tears of the Kingdom, I'm like,
another bone hand.
Right.
And the other thing that is of huge value in this game is eyeballs. I want all the eyeballs in the world. They are extremely valuable on your arrow tips.
Yeah, I have had so much fun with that. That and the jellies, like
yes,
the jellies have come in really handy. Especially like I'm a cheater, but I will use the yellow choo-choo jelly and shoot it into the water to kill the fish.
Yes, that's not cheating. That's the game.
And then go and swim around and catch the fish to then cook the fish.
Very smart.
So much easier.
Before this podcast, I was like, don't talk about Tears of the Kingdom. Don't talk about Tears of the Kingdom. We're not 5 minutes in, and we've talked more about Tears of the Kingdom.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure.
It's what we do.
That was actually like the intro into my next question was that I had to pull myself away from it to do the interview today. But talking to you about, well, what is it other than going into Hyrule that you use to recharge your creative battery?
Ooh, good question. I think I exercise a little bit.
Ooh.
I meditate a little bit, and I hang out with very interesting people. If I can hang around people that are doing creative, interesting, weird things, then it kind of just rubs off. It kind of you kind of absorb it. And between being around interesting people and just some quiet grounding time, that's what does it. I do write a lot, and I find that sort of helps me stay creative. When you're not acting, because you're not acting every day.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And you start to miss it, but if you're writing, you're still kind of exercising that part of yourself, I think.
Yeah, because I feel like, I could totally be wrong. But I would feel like in the writing, you're still trying to get into the character mindset. And that would still be exercising that same part of your brain of the getting into character, but instead of acting it, writing it.
It's exactly it. And I find that they inform each other too. Like when I'm writing, I'm like, oh, what would it be fun for actors to be saying to each other? What would actors like? How would they like? Oh no, you wouldn't say. I wouldn't say. Who would say that this is crap? You can take a hard pen to it as an actor and be like rigorous with it. But then you're, when you're on a set and you've got a script, you might be bold enough to say, I don't know if we need to say this, or maybe I'd say this. Your writer brain comes in a little bit, but I think they're definitely valuable to each other, and I'm certainly glad for both of them in my life.
Awesome. So I have a question for you about your meditation, because I know a couple different people who do different styles of meditation. So I'm kind of curious which one you employ, or do you employ a multitude of different styles? Because now for some people, meditation means sitting quietly in a room by themselves, nothing else going on, and that they just sit there and they're there with their thoughts, and that allows them to find their center, to find peace. For some people, it's going for a nice car ride out in the country, or going for a walk in the woods. Or so for you, what does meditation mean, or do you cross different boundaries on those lines?
Yeah, I that's a great question, but I don't think it's going to be the most inventive answer. In that,
That's okay.
I guess, I think even when I said, I meditate, I felt like that was a brave thing for me to say. I was like, hey, good for you for saying that, because I'm new to it in a way.
Mm-hmm.
I've run a lot, because it just gets my brain. It just quietens all the noise, all the criticism, all the day, your whole day just gets
Sure.
quiet, and you become a machine eventually if you're just going, and that's very grounding, to just sort of empty yourself of that noise, I find. So that's one type. But the thing that is newer to me, is exactly like you said, just being in a room and sitting there and being quiet. And I struggle to do it for 3 minutes, and I go nuts in about 30 seconds. I'm like, I'm going crazy here. I'm going crazy. And I'm like, oh, that's the thing. That's why I'm here. I'm just stay. So that I find that sort of struggle to get past my walls in that way really useful in the rest of my day. I feel like I'm just able to take things and to move through moments in an easier way, from taking those even 3 minutes.
I think that's a cool answer, because I think a lot of people are so, when they think about meditation, they think of it as it has to be this very structured, very rudimentary thing where it's got to be this. It's all inside these four walls, and if I'm not doing this, then I'm not meditating. And I think that there's a lot of different ways that people can meditate, and you talk about going out and running and doing those things. And some people find that they're able to be more alone with their thoughts when they're exercising and doing different things. Mm-hmm. I personally like to sit in my house when it's early in the morning, when it's quiet, before everybody gets up, just me, my recliner, and a cup of coffee, and just kind of, and just sit there and I kind of think about my day, and I think about what's about the day previous. And, and I've also found that if I'm, cause I struggle with anxiety, if I'm having an anxiety filled day, I found that for me, I'm able to sit and focus and think about, structured words and things and phrases that are leading phrases towards something positive, and kind of start using my thoughts to kind of go down that lane. And I found for me that helps. That's why I asked you about what what forms of meditation you're doing.
I mean, I think so much of it is each person finding what works for them.
Sure, yeah.
It's taken me a long time to realize, like, oh, just sit down and shut up. Just do that, and maybe that's good for you. But right. I know something of the feeling that you're describing, and just before everybody's up in that magic morning time, you and your coffee, bliss. Like that is bliss. And just taking those minutes to yourself and your own thoughts are, I think, very good for us to do that, and hard to do too. Very hard.
I agree. Yeah.
Especially
allow yourself.
And especially as parents too, there's so few moments of quiet. And I know that, I have, my daughter will be 5 in September. Anytime that I get to sit alone in a room and it's quiet, like that doesn't happen. And if it does, the urge to just take a nap falls so fast with I just want to sleep.
I know. 5 is tricky because they're not quite doing their own thing yet.
Yeah. And she just got done with Head Start, so she's just done with preschool for the summer. So then it's we've decided we're homeschooling. So I'm like, well, let's not lose that momentum. Let's just keep going with schooling. And so running headfirst into it.
Rude. Poor kid doesn't get a summer break.
She got one day. She got yesterday.
Mean mom is what you are.
She got yesterday off, which involved taking her grandmother to a post-op appointment. So yay, days off.
Hey,
Poor kid.
celebrate.
So you kind of touched on this a couple minutes ago, Matthew, but we talked about the fact that you're also a writer. But I want to point out also that you're an award-winning writer. You won multiple Dora Awards for a play that you wrote called The Mill, which is very cool. One of 10 plays that says, according to Wikipedia can be wrong, but we trust Wikipedia like we trust IMDb. There's a big grain of salt there.
Sure.
But you kind of touched on this a little bit, how being a playwright and how being an actor kind of feed off of one another. But I'm wondering if you could talk about the days where you find yourself leaning towards one more than the other, because I would imagine that there are some days where you feel more of an actor and there are days where you feel more of a playwright. And what are the differences between those days?
That's a good question too. I think for me, I'm a strange actor in that I'm quite introverted. I really enjoy talking to people and being with people, but I really need my time on my own. I really need that recharge time, or else I feel just scattered.
Sure.
And so some days, I'll wake up and I'll be like, I just need to be in my office for a few hours and close the door with my coffee or whatever it is. And have writing time. I need that singular time. I don't want to talk about anything. I want to just put it down and do my best to do that. And then that's that. Some days you wake up and suddenly you're out in the world and you're engaging with people and you might see someone and you're like, wow, who is that human? What are they up to? And you might your brain starts thinking, or an audition will come in and it'll just hit you in the right way and you'll be like, oh man, yeah, just everything falls away and you just want to act. I mean, it's very instinctual, I guess is what I'm saying, that you don't plan what your tomorrow's going to be, but I try and serve whatever is appropriate as best possible. Does that make sense?
No, it does. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever had moments where you're doing one, like maybe when you're acting, and you mentioned that you said that there would be times where you think, well, I don't think my character would say this. Your writer hat kind of pops on for a moment. But have you ever been like acting out something and you've had an idea for something to write to pop in your head? And how? If so,
for a different piece entirely, do you mean?
Yeah. So like, say so say for kicks and giggles, you were on the Hardy Boys set and you're doing something, with the Hardy Boys, but you had an idea for, Jupiter's Legacy and you were going to write something for that. How do you handle that? Do you scratch it out on just like a rough draft and then stuff it in your pocket for later, or do you have to get it out of your head right then?
I kind of do. You like, if I'm on set or something like that, you throw it down on your phone as fast as you can so that it's out of your head, so you're not thinking about it, because you can't be thinking about that when you're acting the part. You have to be doing the part, or else it won't work. You know what I mean? So when those thoughts come, like, get this out of me. Up in my office where I do a large part of my work, there's notepads, and they're just the ideas that come that don't know where to go yet. Yeah, exactly. Right. We need those. And then rather than lying in bed at night or being on set or wherever you might be with these ideas flying through your head, you've gotten them out. They're safe somewhere. You'll come back to them when there's time.
Yeah, very cool.
Same as what you're doing there.
So the crew of the FSF PopCast is notorious for asking about our guests' pets, because we are all animal lovers. And amazing. As I looked at your website and you talked about your two dogs, Walter and Cosmo, which are also brilliant names. I love those
Great names.
Pets should have fun names. But then I learned that Cosmo is a rescue dog, which I love. New. I love. And when you first posted your pictures of him, you included the hashtag Adopt Don't Shop, which touched my heart. I am a huge, huge softie when it comes to pets. So what could you tell us about the Rebel Dog Rescue, the organization that you found Cosmo?
Whoa! I'm so glad you're asking about that. What's that one's name?
That's our two dogs. That's Mia and Toast. Mia's our pit bull and Toast is our corgi.
Oh, my son wants a corgi. He'll
Wonderful
be so
dogs.
jealous. Yeah, are they? I don't know much about them.
Oh, they're
They're
wonderful.
giant slippers.
Yeah, she basically
Giant flippers.
just be prepared to sweep all the time. Buy Roombas, invest in Roombas.
Big
They're-
cheddars.
Oh, horrible! They're double coated, but
Cheddars.
it's worth it. They're good dogs.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Toast specifically likes to lay on people's feet. The last time we were over at Tim's house, Toast just wanted to sleep on my feet the whole time, and that was the
Oh, they're
warmest my
actual
feet have ever
slippers.
been. Oh yeah,
Oh yeah,
like she wants
Yeah.
to be a flipper.
it's her jam. If you're sitting down, she likes to lay across your feet, keep your toes warm.
That's amazing. Amazing.
So I also have a pit bull. Her name is Zoe Jane, so she's named after 2 Firefly characters because why not?
That's what you
And
do.
then we have 2 cats. We have Nymeria Patrice, so she's named after a dire wolf, and
Okay,
Patrice
thank you.
and Patrice from How I Met Your Mother.
Amazing.
Yes. And then I have a tuxedo cat who is the only one of his litter of kittens that is not polydactyl. He was the only one that had the
Oh.
normal number of toes, but
Weird.
he is the only tuxedo, but his name is Ernest Fitzgerald, so he's named after Ernest Hemingway and F. Scott Fitzgerald. But he's-
Amazing.
Tuxedo cat, so he's supposed to be all fancy, and then we just typically call him Nern.
Nern?
Nern.
There's that.
How do you get to Nern?
From Ernest to
from-
Nerny to Nern. He's
I gotcha. Okay.
he's such he's
But you're
got one
Nern.
brain cell.
That's
He's
it.
got one
Didn't-
brain cell.
Didn't Honora tag him with Nern?
Yeah, my daughter couldn't say Ernie, so he was Nern, and now it's kind of stuck.
Oh, that's
But
cute.
then it's so
That's-
funny too, is this cat will sit in the hallway in what we refer to as the Al Bundy pose, where he is leaned up against the
know
wall,
it.
his back feet spread, and the paw in the front. And I'm like, dude, if you
Yeah.
were wearing pants, I know where that hand would be.
Yeah.
But he just
But
sits
then-
like that.
Yeah, they like
It's
it.
weird.
It's kind. I mean, it looks comfy. They look
He-
comfortable.
He looks comfortable. But yes,
Although
actually.
Slavic.
So yes, wanting to know about the Rebel Dog Rescue now that we've talked about all of our
Right.
pets as well.
Rebel Dog Rescue is a great organization. I think they have different locations. We just found them on Instagram from scrolling. My wife found them from scrolling through rescue organizations
Mhm.
and just came across them. They take dogs from Texas that are captured and captured. Is that the right word? Found. And are going to kill shelters and everything, and they put them in a truck and they bring them up to Canada and they foster them here until somebody adopts. And we saw this dog. We did not mean to get another dog. We did not mean to do this. It was totally an accident. I started to look at this dog because this dog looks a lot like the dog we had before who died.
Oh.
But this dog that we got, whose name was Slate at the time, because he's slate colored eyes, because he's blue, kind of husky eyes. Anyways, I fell in love with them. We got the dog, and we're like, what do we call him? What do we call him? And I wanted to call him Iggy Poop. I thought that was hilarious. And he's a total spaz and kind of does like Iggy Pop moves around. And I'm like, it's gotta be Iggy Poop. My son wouldn't have it. He was like, I'm sorry, the dog is Cosmo. And I'm like, finally, I'm like, why is he Cosmo? And my boy's like, because he looks like outer space. And I'm like,
Oh,
you win. You
I
win.
love
done.
it.
That's it. Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness,
so
I love that.
But great organization. Our other dogs are rescue as well, and totally, adopt, don't shop. It's just not worth it. And these dogs are beautiful animals, who are really looking and eager to settle in somewhere that's
Mhm.
good.
Yeah, Mia is a rehome. We got her from somebody that my son wanted a dog. Yeah, he does. My son Nolan doesn't ever really ask for much. I mean, when he came to us and said, "Dad, I want a dog. Can I get a dog?"
Mm,
I was like, "Yep,
of course,
absolutely."
Yeah, for
And
sure.
so I told him start looking for what he wanted, and he found somebody who thought that she could have a Staffordshire pit bull, because that's what Mia is, because their hair is so fine that she thought that that she'd be okay with it because she was allergic to
Yeah.
dogs. She thought that less dander, and I'm like, no, still got allergic. And when we found her, she was a week away from going to the shelter. So we kept her from being able to go to the shelter, and she's a wonderful dog. She's as sweet as the day is long, but she's got the fact that she can breathe on her own without being told is very impressive. She's just the dumbest dog I've ever had in my life. I love her to death. She's sweet as can be, but goodness gracious, this dog is dumb. It's half the charm. It makes us laugh because she's.
I should really back away from their website. Oh gosh.
I know, right? You'll find one that's amazing.
And Toronto's really not that far.
It's a 5-hour drive. You can make it.
Yeah.
It takes me less time to get to the Canadian border than it does to get to my mom's house.
So
they love to. They're really nice people. Some of the nicest dogs I've ever met have been pit bulls. They've got bad. I tell you, they are sweethearts.
They've got such a terrible, terrible reputation, and it's not their fault.
No, it's
they
not.
just want to cuddle. Oh man, I'm not looking at the dog.
Yeah, you need to stop looking at that website. You're going to have a new dog by dinner time. So.
My husband would kill me.
Yeah.
No, that's very cool. We'll put some information for Rebel Dog Rescue down in the show notes.
That's great.
When
and
this
it looks
goes
like
up.
they do have an affiliation with the Rebel Dogs of Detroit as well.
Oh, really?
There you go.
Cool.
Yeah.
So Michiganders such as us could,
I mean, it makes sense trying to Detroit, Canada.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's very cool. All right. So, Matthew, the next question I have for you is usually a question that I only ask of guests who have done something in the Star Wars universe.
Okay.
But over the last couple years, and primarily due to how amazing Strange New World Season 1 was, I found myself liking Star Trek more and more and more. Strange New Worlds for me, indeed. It's a two-part question. Were you always a fan of Star Trek before acting in the universe? And if so, what was your entry point into the fandom? I'll let you ask that part first, and I'll ask the second one in a moment.
You said fart.
I did say fart.
Said fart.
I said
no
fart.
Swearing.
God.
Yeah, I have a boring answer for that one, I think, and it's a very stereotypical answer, and that's Khan. I was a kid when Khan came out, and Star Trek had always been around, it had always been on the television. I'm of an age where I was a kid and I'd watch the old episodes, but I didn't really. It was of a different generation than I was. I didn't connect with it. Star Wars did come out when I was a kid, and was sort of where I gravitated towards. Just that's how things work. But when Khan came out, Khan was different. Khan was scary. It scared me, and I'm like, ooh, Star Trek. I didn't see that coming. Nothing. I mean, maybe now, but I've watched it a few times, but nothing dated in a good way, like the original series. It was a scary movie, and I thought that was super cool. But I don't know if I was ever a huge fan, to be totally honest. I love Strange New Worlds. I think that's a terrific show. I love Next Generation, but I wasn't had to be there every week to watch the thing and see the thing and know what Yeah. Did I answer that question?
No, that's a perfect answer.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think that you and I have pretty much the same feelings about that, because I was never a big fan of TOS. Just didn't really appeal to me. I think your answer is, as something I'm going to steal for later, is that it was just of a different generation than I was. And because I was so enraptured by Star Wars and all the laser swords and the pew-pews and all the things, that I found myself ignoring Star Trek. But I always liked Wrath of Khan. I always thought that was a really, really good movie. So well written. Yeah. Khan was such an amazing, amazing villain.
Never seen anybody like that before. Certainly not from outer space.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw, we had a meme in our Facebook group the other day and I stole it and shared it out on our Twitter page, that said that the Wrath of Khan was essentially a hostile Zoom meeting. Because Khan and Kirk are always just Which
really?
I very
Didn't
much
go
enjoyed. Hostile Zoom meeting, yeah. All right, so here's the second part of this question. So even though you didn't have that deep background in Star Trek then, and we talked about earlier how you're kind of you like myself, you're kind of a noob to some of these things. You're kind of learning as you go. But what does it mean for you to be part of the Star Trek universe?
Oh my gosh. It's huge. It really is. It really is. And I think it's something that has been a sort of evolving understanding of what that means, both to me and just in general, to be part of that thing. When I got the part and I found out what I was doing, I had I sat down with my wife and I was like, I'm gonna be a Romulan, and
right.
Had that moment of like, that's cool. That's a big deal, to be a Romulan in Star Trek. And I'm like, it's fantastically cool, isn't it? I just think I'm like, that's great. One of the funnest gigs you could get, as like I was saying, if you're playing make believe, who doesn't want to be the alien bad guy?
Yeah.
So and being part of the fandom a little bit and getting to know some of the people who are so like generous and authentic and really good people, I've found. It's like I said, it's a sort of an evolving understanding of what this thing is, but I'm super pumped to be a part of it, and I love it. It's really fun.
That's a great answer. On the Star Wars side of things, anytime we've talked with people about this, I've always responded with, if I could even get my name in the credits somewhere, and this applies to Star Trek now as well too. It doesn't matter if I was just, if I was a water boy for somebody, but if my name's in the credits somewhere, I would be thrilled. I was the guy at the end of the bench, guard of the water bottle, tackle whoever comes near it, whatever. I don't care. But that, so being able to be in, I think that for me, looking at it for both Star Wars and Star Trek, any nerd universe, actually, let's be honest, I'd be thrilled just to be able to have my name in the credits somewhere.
I'm with you on that. I auditioned for Star Trek a bunch before I got this part.
Okay.
And each time you're like, oh man, that would be so cool if I got to do that and be that, or but in the audition for this, I didn't know it was a Romulan. They just the sides just said Commander, right? So you don't know that you're doing this part from that episode featuring that actor,
right?
I didn't know all that going in, so I had another sit down with my wife when I was like, it's the Mark Leonard part. It's oh my God, it's balance of, oh my God. So that was a real understanding. The significance of that episode was a big moment. And, as you alluded to Sarek earlier, like that's a big part of fandom. That's a big part of the whole story.
Yeah.
That's very cool. That'd be awesome.
I found too that as we've talked to people from Star Trek and people from Star Wars, that it seems like I've always been a fan of both, but the more I talk to people, the more I'm like, man, the Star Trek fandom is the coolest. Like, it is like the bigger family. It is everybody feels welcome and accepted, and like
that's the part loved. Of it, right? I think that's the part of it that's different, is that Star Trek is the more inclusive gang. It's like,
it's true.
Whoever you are, you exist somewhere in the universe,
right?
Star Wars has like one woman on a film. Yeah, it just ain't the same place.
And that's the thing, is like, growing up as a Star Wars fan, it was I was a kid during the prequel trilogies, so you had Padme, and it's like, Padme is great, but that was it. Yeah. There was Padme,
right?
Versus Star Trek, where it's the Captain Janeway is just the top of it, and I love Janeway.
Right.
Like,
well, you even look at the newest incantation with Strange New Worlds. You've got you've got Uhura, you've got Melissa C. Navia's character, you've got, Ortegas, you've got my brain just went completely blank on me. But there's, number one, there's
you've got Bruce Horak. You've got a legally blind actor / character.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So, there's all this diversity, and even in the cast itself. And, it's an amazing thing to see, because in looking not just at the casting, but you go back and talk about the fandoms, and that's one of the things that I recognize being a big Star Wars fan. There's it seems to me, far less toxicity in the Star Trek universe for fans than there is in the Star Wars, because Star Wars fans are toxic dicks. Let's just be honest.
Star Wars fans have literally bullied actors into wanting to commit suicide.
Yeah, the way that they have gone after
are the Star Wars fans are the worst.
Nobody hates Star Wars like Star Wars fans. And it's a shame that the things that they put Ahmed Best through and Kelly Marie Tran through, Jake Lloyd and all these actors, because it wasn't told the way that they wanted it told, and this actor wasn't written the way that they wanted it written, and it's a damn shame, really.
Like, I've heard those complaints about Star Trek too. It just, in fairness,
Sure.
Strange New Worlds. It wasn't how I thought it was. It wasn't what Discovery gets a lot of that. It's not what it's supposed to be, man.
Right.
Yeah.
There's not much argument to it, because that is what it is. You can not like it, but Star Trek is still diverse.
Right.
Whereas Star Trek, they can, get all huffy about it, but it is still pretty in a box.
It's in a box. It's in its little Star Warsy box.
And I love it too. Don't get me wrong. I love Star Wars.
And I get exactly what you're saying. I'm such a Star Wars fan that Harrison Ford's my favorite all-time actor. My middle son Nolan, who asked for the dog, his middle name is Harrison.
Wow.
So yeah,
amazing.
Tried for Leia for the daughter. His wife said no, but it was a try. It was a pitch and a pass. So
Yeah, sure. I get it.
Oh goodness! So now that we're done with our hot take on Star Wars versus Star Trek fans, because it's gonna happen. It's bound to happen every time. It's just what we do. So I was actually in preparing for the interview today. I did peruse your Instagram as well, just a smidge, with a total research, not stalker. That's not what we do. Sure. We research.
Gotcha.
But you actually just posted a couple of days ago an image on Instagram that said, if you can't stop thinking about it, don't stop working for it. Which I love. I absolutely love that. But
good.
It made me think. So what can you not stop thinking about these days? What's your next big goal?
Interesting. Wow. You were going to offer me a time to plug something, and so maybe this is that. But
sure.
I've been working very hard with a group of people in Hamilton, where I live. It's a city outside of Toronto, to build a performing arts center here in town. And there isn't one. No. Sort of, with that kind of Star Trek attitude, where everyone is welcome and can do their thing.
Yeah.
So we've been trying to work on that for a number of years, and that is certainly one of those things that is frustrating and heartbreaking and difficult, and and really hard. It's just hard to make happen and to get support for on an ongoing basis. And I have quotes all over my room that sort of will inspire me on the right day or in the right moment. And I think on that day, that quote was like, keep going. Yeah. Keep going. It's still in your brain. It's still circulating. People believe in this, as it is with anything, I think, so I think it's a good little mantra, that one.
Yeah. I've been to Hamilton. I love Hamilton.
Oh, I like it too.
It's nice. It is just I felt like when we were there, it was just conveniently far enough away from Toronto that it wasn't super Toronto-y, which I love Toronto too, but it's just quiet enough.
I was real happy to leave Toronto, and Hamilton kind of is far enough that you're kind of like, oh no, it's its own place. It's different. It's got a bit of a different attitude. It's got an industrial area, but it's got a lot of artists that have poured into the city as populations have been moving around, out of big cities. A lot of folks have come here. And so there's a need for this kind of place in Hamilton. So that's
that,
part of what I've been up to, and I'm working hard on.
that'd
Awesome.
be so cool. I mean, because I know that there's the performing arts spot of Toronto. I mean, we went and saw Phantom of the Opera at the Pantages in '97.
Wow. Yeah.
I was 5. That's not a good musical to take a 5-year-old to.
Scary. Is it scary?
It was terrifying.
Yeah.
It was absolutely terrifying. Like, did not like mirrors for years.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until the movie came out in 2004 that I watched it again, and I looked at it with wait a second, this isn't as scary as I thought.
No. In fact, it may be awful, but at the time, terrifying.
Right. I mean, still super weird that this guy lives under the opera house and has come through your mirror to take you to the basement, but also beautiful and wonderful, and I love the story. Yeah.
Yeah, paddle me down your sewer, romance, whatever.
Yes.
Weird.
Well, yeah. It's a very strange musical.
Still only one of 5 musicals I would ever watch.
Oh, really? What are they? Do you literally have a list of 5?
I did. Yeah, I did. So every Wednesday we have a thing on our show we call the 5 at 5, and I'm notorious on our show for hating musicals.
Yeah.
I pretty much despise anything. I just can't. I
He
have a
doesn't
hard time
understand why people sing at him
for no apparent reason whatsoever. It just seems very pointless to me.
Yeah,
so anyway, let's see. I think the 5 were. I included a couple things I had already seen and enjoyed. So one of them was Phantom of the Opera. My wife loves musicals, and she had taken me to a couple, and then after a while, she stopped taking me because she stopped.
because you're a pain in the butt.
Well, there is that. I was trying to find a nicer way to say it, but yes, essentially.
That was my nice way of saying it.
I was ruining her show going experience. Let's put it that way, because I was asking too many questions because I was confused as to why people were singing. But that was not the case with Phantom of the Opera. I very much enjoyed that. I found the musical score to be the most interesting out of all the ones that I had gone to. There's a show on Apple TV Plus called Schmigadoon, which I think is absolutely hysterical, and I like that. Yeah, Kathleen turned me on to that one. I'm a big Monty Python fan, and I think it'd be fun to watch Spam-A-Lot.
Yeah.
I've never seen it, but I would be interested in that. And then 2 are the other 2 were written by Lin-Manuel Miranda. I've never seen Hamilton. I've been told that I need to. Especially because I like hip hop and I enjoy and I like the Revolutionary War era for American history. So it seems like a no-brainer.
What more do you need then? You got Hamilton. You like hip hop.
Right.
You like.
And the other one is called The Heights. So just because it has Lin-Manuel Miranda in it, I thought, well, he did this, and everybody seems to think I'll like this, so maybe I'd like that too. And I looked into it, and
why haven't you seen Hamilton yet?
It was a musical.
It's literally on Disney Plus, though. Like.
I know. I was just delaying it because it was a musical, and musical.
Okay, well, technically it's an operetta, if that makes it any better. Because there's only like 2 spoken lines. Yeah, everything else is either sung or rapped.
I don't know that you're helping its case, but all the same, I'm still interested in.
It sounds like you like the sort of newer stuff, is what I can hear.
Probably,
you know what I mean? Phantom of the Opera is sort of bridging that gap between like really sing at me musicals and like a newer era. Maybe?
Yeah.
Whereas I grew up with like the Rodgers and Hammerstein because my grandma was an opera singer.
That's a different thing.
That's a totally different thing. Yeah, my grandma was an opera singer. My mom and my dad met doing community theater. Like I grew up with Oklahoma and Seven Brides for Seven Brothers and my heavy stuff.
My wife has a few hidden skills. One of which is that she can pretty much do the entire script of Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, because it's one of the most ridiculous stories and films ever.
Yes, it is.
Ever.
It is.
And like talk about things that are like don't stand up with like how our world's changed. Like all of those are really problematic right now.
Oh yeah.
Like the title alone is like, what are we doing? Everybody's marrying everybody.
Yeah.
Oh, it's okay.
My high school did Seven Brides for Seven Brothers when I was, that would have been my,
Because it's got a
it would
big
have been my
cast. Everybody
8th
gets
grade
part.
year.
Yeah.
So it was the year before I was actually in high school. And it was a very well done production, other than when one of the 7 brothers' towels fell off and he wasn't wearing anything under it.
Oh, formative moment for you there, hey?
On stage in an elementary school.
Yep.
Like,
just hanging brain in the elementary school. Okay.
It's right up there with when they did Footloose and the guy actually decided to punch the other guy in the face and broke his nose during the show. And
wow.
Live theater gets fun.
Yeah,
Live theater gets fun.
Dangerous.
All right, Matthew, we have one final question for you.
What's that?
This is our silly question. We warned you about this in the pre-show. So this, because the rest of our, as Kathleen is so prone to say, because the rest of our questions have been so serious, this is our silly question. All right. So if you could send someone a lifetime supply of something, but it has to be someone who annoys you, what would you send them and why?
You know what? This is a evasion perhaps, but I remember when I was a kid, there was this, or when I was a kid, I was younger, I lived in Montreal, and I remember going up the street to this pool hall that I used to play at. And it used to be this amazing place, and then they changed owners, and they changed how it looked inside, and all these bikers started playing there.
Ooh.
And it was just this totally different vibe, totally different place. It wasn't friendly, it was dangerous. All these things it just changed. And I remember one day I went up to the bar and I got $20 in change, and I went over to the jukebox and I put all $20 in on "Damn, I Wish I Was Your Lover" by, I don't remember who it was that sang that song, and just they played it for hours at this pool hall. And all these bikers are like, "What the is going on?" So
that's Sophie B. Hawkins, wasn't it?
That's Sophie B. Hawkins. So that would be my goal, is like to send somebody who annoys me a lot of like love that kind of isn't right for them.
I like
evil,
it.
Right?
Oh, that's perfect.
I don't know what it would be though. Like
I would have to. I was thinking that when I was writing this question, I was thinking, what would I would want to send somebody something. If they really annoyed me, it'd have to be like a something that like they got sent regularly, like through the mail, like a subscription of something. That's something they didn't like. You know, like if somebody were to do it to me, they'd send me like blueberries, whatever, because I don't like blueberries. You know, but
there you go. I'll remember that. You know what? I remember
signing up for a lifetime subscription of just glitter bombs.
Blueberry magazine.
There you go.
I remember in high school, I had a math teacher who was a horrible person, and I remember dropping math because it was clear I could not do this. And he was this like, felt like he was just like cut out from the Cold War and kind of put in front of the classroom, like screw cut and pens, and this is the way you do things and all this. And I remember when I dropped his class, I went to see him in his office, and I brought him a plant as like a goodbye. And just his face of utter confusion about like, why are you giving me a plant? I'm this, anyways, it challenged him in weird, uncomfortable ways. And so I loved giving him that because I hated this man and I knew he would be confused by a plant.
I love it. That's awesome.
Why is it always the math teachers? Why is it always the math teachers that are the worst?
Well, it depends who you are, I guess. If you're a great math teacher, you're not the worst.
Because they're trying to teach other people how to summon the demons. That's what they're doing. So,
if they could have come out and said that, I would have been in. I would have been down.
Right?
But
that would have been fun.
All the numbers get in the way.
Nice.
Oh, goodness. Matthew, thank you so much for taking time to be on our show with us today. Where can our viewers and our listeners go to find out more about you and your work? Sure.
I've got a website, I think, at MatthewMacFadzean.com, and I'm on Instagram at MatthewMacFadzean. Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a lot of fun. Great to company boat.
Yeah.
This was fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to remind everybody that subscribing is the single most important thing that you can do to help us to continue to grow and get amazing guests like Matthew MacFadzean here to have we've had a blast. We hope he did too, but these funny moments for you to be able to listen to. So please subscribe. It helps out well more than you know. And go check out Matthew's stuff as well. He's got a lot of cool stuff out there for you guys to check out. But if for whatever reason you aren't happy with the content of our show today, please feel free to submit a complaint to the head of our complaint department. That's the Hardy Boys. Yeah, Frank and Joe Hardy may not be bad guys and they don't have an evil bone in their fictional bodies, but what they do possess is a certain set of skills. A set of skills that make them dangerous to podcasters like Kathleen and I. No, not those type of skills. No one's getting killed here. We hope anyway. But just know that when you submit your complaint in duplicate, that these young sleuths will take your case and see it through to the bitter end, providing justice for you, the offended party, no matter what it takes. Possibly the only better solution would have been for you to call the Mosby Boys.
Thanks again, Matthew.
Pleasure. That was a hell of an outro.
Thank you so much. All right, guys, that's going to conclude us for the FSF PopCast. Goodbye.
Copyright 2023 FSF PopCast.
Reference to any specific product or entity mentioned on this podcast does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by FSF PopCast. The views expressed by the guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. If you have any questions about this disclaimer, please contact us via email at info@fsfpopcast.com. Original music by Jordan Michaels.